time where worlds align. AI story time. Let's act redefine.
I tried a new writing tool with BookWiz this time around. It involves a bit more manual input than other programs, but it's clearly designed to give users a more fleshed out story. Of course, I rushed through using it as much as possible, and the story turned out to be a mess, filled with paragraphs of repeated content, beat notes, and overall unclear structure. Maybe I should have looked for some instructions on the app that might have resulted in a better output. Anyway, I took the mess it gave me, uploaded it to ChatGPT, with the prompt, "Turn this into a readable short story." This is what it produced. For the video, I usually try to influence the images throughout for consistency. This time, I didn't do that. I pasted the text into LTX Studios and selected the film noir style. I used the output as it was provided extra fingers and all making no edits.
Sarah was the epitome of success. From the outside, her life seemed flawless. A prestigious career as a lawyer, a loving husband, 2 bright children, and a sprawling suburban home with a perfectly manicured lawn. She moved through her days with grace, tackling work and family life with an efficiency that left her colleagues in awe and her friends slightly envious. Yet beneath this polished exterior, Sarah harbored a secret, one so dark it threatened to unravel the meticulously constructed life she had worked so hard to build. It all started on a cool autumn morning, the kind that whispered change with every crisp breeze. Sarah's alarm blared at 5:45 a.m., jolting her from a restless sleep. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, her feet meeting the cold hardwood floor. After a moment's pause, she rose and padded toward the bathroom, avoiding her reflection in the mirror. Her chest tightened as the same thought played on a loop in her mind. Today was the day everything could fall apart. The day started as all others did. She dressed in her sharpest navy suit, pulled her hair into a sleek ponytail, and sipped coffee while scanning her phone for emails. The morning's routine grounded her, a false sense of control in an increasingly chaotic reality. She kissed her husband, Michael, on the cheek before heading out the door, her heels clicking against the concrete as she navigated the bustling city streets toward her office. Midway through a tedious legal consultation, Sarah's world tilted. Across the polished glass conference table, a client introduced someone new to the team, Adam. Her throat tightened as she recognized him immediately. He was older now, his hair streaked with gray, but his piercing eyes hadn't changed. They were the same eyes she had tried to forget, the ones that had witnessed her greatest mistake. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Adam's smile was polite but knowing. As they shook hands, she noticed the way his grip lingered, firm, almost accusatory. She played the moment off, but panic clawed at her insides. The meeting continued, yet Sarah's mind raced. Why was Adam here? Did he plan to expose her secret? Had he already told someone? The memory she had buried for over a decade resurfaced with visceral clarity. A reckless decision, a night of poor judgment, and the accident that followed. She had thought the chapter was closed, locked away in the recesses of her past. Adam's presence suggested otherwise. That evening, Sarah's composure cracked. Alone in her home office, she poured a glass of wine and stared at her reflection in the darkened window. Her perfect life felt like a house of cards, teetering on the brink of collapse. She considered confiding in Michael, but quickly dismissed the thought. He adored her. She couldn't bear to tarnish his image of her. The days that followed turned into a delicate game of avoidance. Sarah tiptoed around Adam, careful to limit their interactions, but his presence was inescapable. Each encounter brought subtle reminders of what he knew. A lingering glance here, a cryptic comment there. She tried to confront him once, cornering him in the break room, but he brushed her off with an infuriating smirk. "We'll talk soon," he'd said, leaving her simmering with a mix of anger and dread. Weeks passed, and Sarah's once immaculate facade began to crumble. She grew distant at home, snapping at Michael and avoiding her children's questions with curt replies. At work, her razor-sharp focus dulled. Deadlines slipped, colleagues whispered. Adam's shadow loomed larger, consuming her every waking thought. One fateful evening, she couldn't take it any longer. She found Adam waiting in the parking garage, leaning casually against her car as if he had all the time in the world. "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice cracking under the strain. Adam studied her, his expression unreadable. "Closure," he finally said. "For both of us." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. For a moment, Sarah's carefully constructed defenses faltered. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "What do you mean?" "You've been running from it for years," Adam replied. "The guilt, the lies. Don't you think it's time to stop?" That night, Sarah made a decision. She couldn't live like this anymore, trapped in a web of deceit, terrified of the truth's inevitable unveiling. Sitting alone in the quiet of her car, she called Michael. Voice trembling, she told him everything. The accident, the cover-up, the shame she had carried ever since. Michael's silence on the other end of the line was deafening. When he finally spoke, his words weren't filled with anger as she had feared, but with sadness. "You should have told me, Sarah. We could have faced it together." The following weeks were grueling. Sarah's confession rippled through her life, altering relationships and forcing her to confront the people she had hurt. Yet with each step, a strange thing happened. The weight began to lift. The truth, as painful as it was, offered a freedom she hadn't anticipated. By the end of the year, Sarah's life looked different. Messier, more uncertain, but also more real. She learned to embrace the imperfections, to let go of the need for absolute control. The people who stayed by her side, Michael, her children, a few trusted friends, saw her not as the perfect woman she had pretended to be, but as the flawed, resilient human she truly was. In the end, Sarah realized that perfection was an illusion, one that had cost her more than she had ever been willing to admit. But in facing her demons, she found something far more valuable: authenticity and the strength to carry on.
Story